Hello, everybody. This is DeathGroundReviews, the monster that devours horror, suspense, and all those things, the fantastic. And I've got with me today Rami Younger. Welcome, Rami.
Hey everyone, it's Rami Younger, horror writer, anime enthusiast, all around known eccentric, and we're here today to discuss Perfect Blue.
That's right, folks, the one and only Perfect Blue. So, this anime was directed by Satoshi Kon. The story's by Satoshi Kon. And the source material it's based upon is Perfect Blue Complete Metamorphosis by Yoshikazu Takuchi. It was distributed by Rex Entertainment. Its first release was August 5th, 1997 at the Fantasia Festival. And then it was released again February 28th, 1998 in Japan.
So the film follows Mima Kirigoi. She's a Japanese pop idol, what we would call a J-pop singer here these days, but she's leaving the group she's part of and transitioning into becoming an actress, which is something she doesn't really want to do, but she's feeling pressured by her manager. And and she and it kind of causes a lot of mental strain for her, especially as she starts to be stalked by this really weird dude, and a lot of other events just kind of cause her to go mentally unhinged or just really tear at her psychological wellness. For a good portion of the film, you're not really sure what's reality and what that's Mima's delusion.
Right. Interesting production fact. So the original source material did not include the reality within a play concept, nor was there the motif of blurring the line between dream and reality. So the original source material was simply a splatter psycho horror story about
And
an.
it was. I've actually read it.
Oh, you read it? You read it? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. It's a eco splatter horror story with some shades of Silence of the Lambs.
Right. So Khan, originally, he didn't want to direct it. Part of the reason was for what you just said there, Rami. He was like, it's just too much like Silence of the Lambs or Basic Instinct or Seven. And he felt it didn't work as well with anime. But the original author gave him permission, and the producers from Madhouse gave him the permission to change the story somewhat. And so Khan decided he would direct because he was allowed to do so. He as long as he kept three elements. So there had to be the main character as a B grade idol. She had to have a rabid fan stalking her, and it had to remain a horror film. But he was able to add those elements. Well, he wanted to focus on the protagonist, the victim, and how that victim is broken, by being stalked by this psycho madman.
And oh my god, it works. Every time I see this film, I notice something new, I learn
Yeah.
something new. Just this time around, color, I really notice how they use the color red, like how that's kind of like a signal. Anytime you see something that's red, be advised it's probably not a good sign. It's a literal red flag.
So you were seeing this coming up, sort of like foreshadowing an event of something bad coming, a sinister omen in a sense.
Yep.
Cool. One thing that really engaged me was just how the scenes would segue into each other. So, like, for instance, there was the scene where she's viewing the creepy stalker website, and this question keeps coming into her mind: Who are you? Who are you? And then it dives into Mima as an actress doing her scene where she states that very line. It blurs that line. It really keeps you engaged as a viewer because you're constantly going, is this, you're questioning it a lot like her. Is this reality or is this the fiction? And it's a good way to keep you guessing and keeping you glued to the screen. I thought that was a very effective narrative technique.
Yeah, I agree. Satoshi Kon does some very interesting work. I've seen a lot of his other work. I've been meaning to watch Paprika, but Millennium Actress and Paranoia Agent, they're just really good psychological tales. And he's it's a shame he died so young. He could have gone on to really create some more amazing psychological anime if he had survived.
Oh, that's sad. I didn't hear the news that he had passed away.
Yeah, he passed pretty young. I'm not sure the exact date or circumstances, but he died relatively young. It was a shame. And he had a great vision. I mean, I don't know what's your familiarity with anime in general?
Not very much. So there was a old one I first watched years ago. It was a mecha one. Let me think. It had the Valkyrie transformation planes in it. The
Sounds like maybe
Robotech.
oh,
So when I was a kid, I went to at our hardware store. They used to sell videos there, and I found this one. I thought, oh, it's got a cool picture of a jet on it. So I bought it, and it was Robotech. It was the first episode of Robotech. Later, I found it on Netflix and watched more of it because I was like, man, where's that anime I watched as a kid, you know? But very little. I watched Inuyasha. I watched Elfen Lied. Um, oh man, that's about it. That's the ones that are memorable for me. That is, oh, there was another one I watched. It's the guy that has like the big knight armor on his body everywhere he goes, and he's killing goblins.
Goblin
Goblin Slayer.
Slayer.
Yeah, yeah. So that's another one I've watched, which was really cool.
Well, you sound like you're familiar enough that you know that anime tend there's that aesthetic of the big eyes and the cutesy characters
Yes,
and
the
whatnot.
vibrating eyes.
Yeah, and I watched some I've watched not a lot, but some horror anime. It's really hard to do because you're balancing that cutesy aesthetic with storytelling. What I really love about Perfect Blue and its animation style is that they do not go for that cutesy style. It's a much more realistic anime style where the characters can be ugly or just normal looking, very few are beautiful. They actually have at once poster for one of the more traditional animes, and then it just the next shot is the stalker character who, even by this anime, he's standards, is ugly.
Leads me to ask you, Rami. So some of the critics felt like Perfect Blue should have been live action. In fact, they were going, why wasn't this made live action? Do you feel it could have been a very effective live action? For me personally, I was sixes on this. I thought it was great as an anime. I don't know as much about the stylistic things you're describing, but I thought it worked terrifically. But I felt like it could have been a fine live action. What are your thoughts on that?
I think the part of the reason why it works as an anime is that it does have this vibrancy, and it really does is able to play with this sense of unreality
Yeah.
using animation, like Mima's alter ego, that spirit pop idol herself. Back then, they probably would have had to use some sort of CGI for that, and let's face it, the Spider-Man in CGI from maybe 4 years later has not aged that well. It's like really bad PS2 CG. Yeah, but anime style, they're able to do fantastical, impossible things
Mhm.
just with hand and draw on pictures, and that's why it works. Also, I feel like some of like the pow like how bright red the red is wouldn't have worked in live action, but in anime it works. I mean, if I feel like it would have been like a Disney live action film. I mean, the original or live action remake, I should say. I mean, in the anime, its story is beloved. It's got its style. Well, it's got this special atmosphere, this feel that only animation can deliver. You bring that into live action, even with high production values and big star names. Yeah, it'll be yeah, visually amazing, but in the end, it just won't hit the same.
You brought up some good points there. I didn't think about some of the CGI they maybe would have had to implement for it, how limited it would have been back then.
Plus, some of the scenes, I mean, that is some really dark stuff. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, yeah. That would have been
spoiler
tough live
alert,
action.
spoiler alert, but in the first third of the film, Mima has to film a scene that today, even back then would have been controversial, but today, oh my God, might have gotten somebody canceled. And it really traumatizes her. I feel like if someone had tried to do that in live action, there would be parents groups and stuff coming out of the woodwork saying how this film is dangerous to the youth and is going to cause mental decay in all who go to view it. Anime, the animated format at least gives a degree of separation because all it's all drawings.
Yeah, it brings to my mind another production fact. Supposedly Aronofsky, the one who directed Requiem for a Dream, I guess he tried to buy the rights to Perfect Blue because he wanted to use the bathtub scene with Mima,
Oh,
specifically for
right.
a scene in Requiem for a Dream. I guess there was some clause in the agreement that caused him to back down. But
He still worked that bathroom scene
oh yeah,
into Requiem for a Dream. I saw that a few years after I saw Perfect Blue, and I was like, oh, so that's where that came from.
is there are there? I've never seen Requiem for a Dream. Is there any particular changes to it, or is it pretty?
Um, a blonde-haired white woman in New York City, and it's live action.
So it's pretty well directly taken.
Yeah. Um, Here's a production fact that you might not know, but that I've always found pretty interesting with the film.
Yeah.
At the same time this happened, at, or at the same time this film was being made, singer Bjork, or however you pronounce, or Bjork, I'm not sure how her name is pronounced, had a crazy stalker of her own.
Oh dear.
Yeah, this is true. This guy got really obsessed with Bjork, and he did not like the fact that she was married to a black guy, I guess, at the time, because then he started planning this really elaborate scheme to kill her. And when he set it in motion, he also killed himself. It's pretty disturbing stuff. Luckily, the scheme was stopped before it could ever reach Bjork, but it was still pretty freaky, and she was like kind of traumatized. So it's a really sort of weird parallel at this time this movie is happening, and some of what that's depicted in the movie has weird parallels to this actual singer's life. And the film has also aged pretty well. I mean, back in 1997, the internet was still pretty new, and while we had heard of people getting super obsessed with celebrities, like the guy who shot Lennon, it wasn't. And it was still something that people had to wrap their minds around. But then today you've got internet culture where people can get really crazy, flame wars and cancel culture, and feeling the need to be seen every second of the day. And it just gets really, really insane. So it's kind of aged very well in that regards. You look at it and you see the stalker character, and you're like, wow, that really does work. That really makes sense. That's aged well.
The parallel thing you're talking about, that's happened with some other films out there. Like I remember there was some other Japanese movie. It was called like Dark Water or something. It was
Right.
with the
Dark
elevator, right? The elevator game. And there was that girl that was found dead
Elisa
in water.
Lamb.
Elisa Lamb. Yeah,
She was found in the water tank, and people were pointing out all these parallels between that and the movie
right,
Dark
right.
Waters,
Yeah.
which had a
Creepy stuff.
similar idea. And it didn't help that hotel that she's at has a really sordid history,
Oh
the
yeah.
Cecil.
Serial killers and all kinds of stuff stayed there. It brings to my mind too, Rummy, what do you think are some movies that would have been great animes? One that comes to my mind, and I think it was even inspired by anime, is Blade Runner. Just the amazing settings in that movie. I was like, man, this has got to be an anime.
I mean, it couldn't hurt. I
Right?
am not a big Blade Runner fan, but yeah, I could sort of see that working out. I actually have thought that the Harry Potter books would make
Yeah,
great anime because
they would
you'd
have.
have more room to tell the story. I mean, they're remaking those movies into a TV show on 8 for Max, and I'm just like, why not just hire an animation company and do it? You'll have a lot more freedom that way. The Though at the same time, I probably won't watch. Even if it was an anime, I probably wouldn't watch it
Eh,
just because of how my personal feelings towards J.K. Rowling these days.
no, I see.
Uh, this is something I should really think about at a later date. What I can tell you though is that Perfect Blue is one of my top 6 horror movies, and I watched it this past Halloween in a double feature with one of my favorites, Prince of Darkness, which we've talked about here before, and
Oh
it
yeah.
still hit me. There are still moments where I'm just like, oh God, that's terrifying.
I remember when we first decided to choose to watch this one, you said that it was like the quintessential story of horror. You said it symbolized everything that was meaningful to you in horror. What way? That wasn't your exact words. That's me kind of reading into what you said, adding to it more than
Well,
maybe
for
what you
me,
said.
it's I think I said something along the lines of the best form of the quintessential anime horror because it's
Yeah.
just so very well done. It's a great balance of horror and animation in the medium. But I like how there's a lot of unknown. Like I've seen it several times since the first time I watched it, and there are still moments where I'm like, I can't tell what is real here and what isn't. And fear of the unknown
Right.
of and of your mind being your own worst enemy, that is a seriously the powerful thing. That's something that shows up in a lot of horror.
So that's what it was, man. It's a spiral into madness that leaves you constantly guessing. You're always unsettled throughout the course of this narrative.
Yeah, and honestly, I feel like more people should know about but unfortunately, I mean, you still will find movie fans who will know it and be like, "Oh my God, it's good." But sadly, among horror fans and among anime fans, you'll find a lot of people who still don't know it. And I'm just like, oh, that's a damn shame because it is so good.
Well, guys, you got to watch it. Check out Perfect Blue. It was excellent. If you have seen it, let us know what you think. Tell us in the comments.
What do you think was real? Oh, what about it is memorable to you? Do you who want to go stalk Mima Kirigori? If you answer that, yes, we're going to forward your name to the police.
That's right. We'll report you. You ain't getting away with it. And that concludes our review, guys, of Perfect Blue. This is DeathGroundReviews, the monster that devours horror, suspense, and all those things, the fantastic. And we'll see you next time.
And this is Rami Unger. We're wishing you pleasant nightmares. See you next time.